stuff around. Chaps, we've got Steve. Steve, I met you on a business thingy. What I forgot on what it was. Nick's thingy-majiggy, wasn't it? And then you popped the question about mindfulness, and I remember sitting there thinking, "Oh, here we go." And I think you asked the question, "What do you think of what do you think of mindfulness, or something like that?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yuck." And I think up to a point, I still stand by that.
Yeah.
The reason being is because it's churned around so much. Be mindful, blah, 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 blah. I don't think anyone actually knows what it means. I really don't. But when you started talking and all this kind of stuff, it took me a couple of minutes to go, okay, well, I'll focus on what you're doing rather than doing this little hoping I'm not tapping on the replying to an email. I was like, actually, you explained it really, really well. Because is that what you do for a business? I should know this. I apologize.
Yeah, so in a sentence, I joined IBM when I was a kid, but then I burned out and I left after about 30 years. But before I left, what really helped me with my burnout was mindfulness, and I wasn't expecting it to. I was so against it in my head. It sounded like some navel gazing, weird, tree huggy BS. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah.
And it just sounded like something that I really didn't want to do. It ended up radically transforming my life. It made me find a peace I thought I'd lost forever. It brought my anxiety levels down. It was like finding water in a drought. It was incredible. And I ended up bringing the program into IBM, which was super successful. But then I lost my job. I lost my job in 2020. So at that point, I thought, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Huge decisions. You and I were talking before we came on about big decisions in life.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest decision. And I knew what I wanted to do here. My heart was saying to me, you love helping people. If you can help men and women, but probably men more particularly, just find more peace in their life, just sleep better, just open up a little bit about their mental health. That's gonna be such a rewarding thing. The hairs on the back of my neck stand up as I talk about it now.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a massive decision in 2020 and never run a business before in my life. But I thought I know how to teach mindfulness. I know how to teach it to cynics because I was one. I know how to make it secular. I know how to make it mainstream. I know how to make it ordinary thing anyone can do. It doesn't have to be this onerous chore, this extra thing you got to do in your day that no one's got any time for. I knew I could do that because I'd done it in IBM, which is one of the toughest places to prove this kind of stuff. So back then, 2020, I thought, okay, I'm going to go for it, and I did. So now my job is full time teaching stress reduction courses that are all based on evidence, evidence based, scientifically proven mindfulness techniques. I teach them in corporates. I've got an exec program, which is slightly different, where it's a one-on-one bespoke kind of 6-month program that I do one-on-one with execs. But most of my work is going into businesses, into corporates normally, and people how to reduce their stress, how to enjoy their life more, how to be happier, healthier, higher performing people, right? Which even the most macho bloke wants that.
No, exactly. Even now, I'm like listening. I'm one of these people. I'll brush stuff off, but then secretly I'll try and learn a little bit about it. I am kind of like that. I think I kind of have to because of the whole charity stuff. And I stand extremely strong, especially when it comes down to mental health. As long as you are dealing with your mental health, it doesn't matter how you deal with it. For me, if people want to do yoga and stuff like that, completely and utterly freaks me out. You won't ever get me doing that. I'm quite headstrong on that kind of stuff. But you know what? If that works for somebody else,
yeah, totally.
I rag motorbikes around racetracks. I go wild camping and all of this kind of stuff. But that works for me. Do you get what I mean? And if you want to sit there breathing somehow for 10 minutes, if that's dealing with your mental health, no one's got any right to criticize it.
No, but that's probably the first misconception. People think the meditators, all they do is they sit and they go, all right, Dan, do you want to come and meditate with me? Because it sounds amazing, doesn't it? Well, no, it doesn't.
Sounds horrible. Yeah.
Go, fuck me, this is boring. God, what am I going to do tonight? When am I going to go wild camping? That sounds like really something. Yeah, your mind's just going to go. So for most people, I need to translate the mindfulness meditation. I'm kind of using them interchangeably when I shouldn't really. But mindfulness, we spoke, maybe what pricked your ears up when I spoke at your group last week was the realization that mindfulness for most people is a name you could attribute to some of the most beautiful moments in their life. Remember me saying that. So anybody watching this, listening to this now, if I say to them, forget mindfulness, forget meditation, forget all those terms, right? They're just labels. It doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it what the hell you want. So let's drop all that because it does come with preconceived ideas for a lot of people. So let's drop all that. All I want you to think about now is one moment in your life, and we did this last week, one moment in your life where you felt either deeply peaceful, just for a second. Some people may need to go back a long time for this, right?
Yeah.
If you've been living with anxiety for years, you've forgotten what feeling peaceful bloody feels like.
Yeah.
You may think, Jesus, I was a kid when I felt that. You know, when I was lying down in the field and I was 10 years old and or I was out on my bike or whatever. And just for 2 seconds, maybe longer, the weight of the world lifted, and it's just like, I wish you could go back and capture that and bring it into your life now. Because life gets heavy when you get older. We've got responsibilities, and we've got mortgages and bills and family, and it can tend to squeeze the peace out of us. But most people can remember at least a time in their life, even if it wasn't that recent, where they felt either deeply peaceful, that beautiful, or maybe they're doing something. You talk about racing bikes and stuff. When you're racing your bike, you probably feel pretty alive then, but there's probably also an underlying sense of freedom from the crazy thoughts that run through your mind, of freedom from all the responsibilities you've got in your job, the
Yeah.
freedom from your health worries, your finances, your relationships, your job, all that stuff. It kind of goes when you're racing your bike, right? Because it's just you and the
Well,
bike.
it does. I was speaking to my wife about it many times because when we got married, she was like, "You got to stop. That's dangerous." Blah 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 blah. She's over that now. I think for me, when I'm doing 150, 180, 190 mile an hour around the racetrack with your mates in tow and all this kind of stuff, all you can focus on is that one thing of
Yeah,
staying upright. That's
yeah,
it. You can't be. You can't think of anything else.
right. So this is I didn't know you did this, right? And none of
Yeah.
this has been scripted or rehearsed, right? But
No.
this is a perfect example there. So you're telling me that's mindfulness. You racing around that track, your body and your brain instinctively know in that moment when you're racing, if I start thinking, if I start drifting, daydreaming, thinking about my finances, thinking about my problems, worry, as soon as you go into thinking, there's a high probability you'll die.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
So you don't do that. So you instantly become immediately present. All of your attention, there's no attention left for thinking. So you can't worry, daydream, drift, get anxious about stuff. There's nothing to be anxious about because you're not thinking about anything. So all of your attention comes into your body, right? You're in a flow state, and athlete, they say that for athletes, but you're in that perfect state where you're aligned so perfectly with the present moment that you're there, you're free from your thinking mind, you're free from all your worries, and it's just you and the bike. And that's one of the reasons you absolutely love it, because you know when you go there, there's no thinking happens.
Yeah.
But let's rewind this all the way back, right? People hopefully have got their own examples. Biking for you is a brilliant one. Maybe for people it's lying on a beach in Spain, maybe it's petting their dog or holding their baby or whatever, right? But if you've got those moments in, and you've kind of told us already what underpins this, because the next question I was going to say is, during that moment when you feel deeply peaceful, intensely alive, joyful, how much thinking are you doing in those moments? And if you zoom in and look very, very closely, biking's an easy one. You know, you said to me yourself, I didn't even ask you the question. You said, I'm not thinking when I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And that's the key that so many people miss. When our thinking mind stops, it's normally quite a rare phenomenon in this day and age because we're so overwhelmed and overstimulated, and our brains are so anxious a lot of the time that we're thinking. There's loads of stats, you can go and look them up, right? 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, 6 to 8,000 thoughts an hour, depending on how much you sleep. Most of them, they reckon these days, are repetitive or useless. A lot of them are harmful.
Yeah.
We get into habits, especially if you're depressed or anxious. You'll get stuck in these loops, right? So, what am I trying to tell you here? I'm trying to tell you that some of the most beautiful moments in your life are when you're not thinking. Now, not thinking doesn't mean you've fallen below thought, Dan, right? We're going quite deep quite quickly here, but
Yeah. That's cool.
so we're not falling below thought. It's not the same as getting pissed and then thinking, oh, the more I drink to a point, okay, I've forgotten my problems. I don't care about anything anymore. This feels good. And you get that sleepy kind of anesthetized. So we're not talking drink or drugs where you fall below thought. We're talking about moving the other way, transcending thought, moving above it, where you're still very much alert. You're very much awake. You know, you're not riding your bike under the influence of anything. Again, that's incredibly dangerous. So back to using your story, which is much better than any of mine, you're in that beautiful state where you've moved above thought. And what I mean by moving above thought is you're very alert and you're awake. When people think, oh, I've stopped thinking, they think just gone. I'm unconscious, I'm not thinking. No, the best state for us as a human being is probably when we're alert and awake and alive, and we step out of thinking every now and then. And these are the greatest moments of our lives, when you're biking, when you're doing all the stuff you love to do, if you're a sportsman. Look at people like Paul Gascoigne, Paul Merson, Tony Adams, any player that's been through really difficult stuff off the pitch, they'll all tell you the same thing. When I'm playing football, it all goes away.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
The mind stops thinking. So if we drag this all the way back, we're here to talk about mindfulness and meditation. We kind of are, we're kind of not. But that is a moment of mindfulness. You could call it a mini meditation when you're on your bike. Now, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want more moments of that? So the thing I teach people, Dan, is to take that and say, well, look, you've got these things. Some people like running, cycling, whatever. Blokes typically will pick a sport that they kind of get this from, right?
Yeah.
And it's brilliant, and keep doing it. And I love that you do it. But you can't jump on your bike. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning and for the 10th night in a row, you're really struggling to sleep because your mind's going crazy, I'm not going to say, Dan, go and get the bike out and race around 150 miles an hour. It's impractical. So can we find ways of achieving the same thing that you get when you're on your bike, when you're living your normal everyday life?
You got me by the bollocks now. No, the only reason, because I've preached about the whole motorbike stuff. Obviously, I'm well aware a lot of people wouldn't dream of doing that, and that's cool. But even like the wild camping, I make a point of doing the wild camp peak districts on the edge of the mountains and all of that, all that kind of stuff. Actually, no, you're right. I tend to do that when I'm at the end of the tether.
Yeah, because instinctively you know that the periods where you're not thinking, or you're able to step out of thinking, that's when good things happen. We all know that. Why do people smoke? Why do people smoke weed? Why do people have a glass of wine, a beer after work? Everyone's trying to still their mind. Everyone's trying to quieten their mind. And anyone that's had any problem sleeping, they're desperately trying to quieten their minds. That's a bloody thing that keeps them awake.
I get insomnia really bad, so yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But we kill for a quiet mind, right? And we're all scrabbling around trying to do it and taking things and trying. But one of the most simple ways of doing it, but of course it takes practice, and of course no one else can do it for you, is if you learn ways of achieving the same thing that you get through your biking, and other people will get through whatever examples they were thinking of, and you can do it in your everyday life. And you can use your breath to do that. You can use putting attention in your body, what you'd be doing on your bike anyway. You can learn to do this. So what then happens is you end up peppering your day with mini moments of stillness, mini moments where your mind is quiet. Call it a meditation if you want, call it mindfulness if you want. I don't care what people call it. I don't give a shit what people call it. It's the experience. It's the experience of this that matters, right? So when you learn to do that, you learn, do you know what? There's 2 ways of taking a shower. I can be in the shower thinking about all my problems, worrying about stuff, being in my work meeting, even though I'm not even at work, or I can be in the shower and I can be so present that my mind is fairly still.
Yeah, because I must admit, actually, I do enjoy, before I open up my business, I do enjoy sitting in the car for 5 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe.
If anyone's camped, you talk about camping. Let's use camping as an example. I'm a terrible camper.
Yeah.
I go camping once a year with the boys, and I love it. They've got most of the gear, and it's the usual thing. The showers aren't great. You come back grubby. And one of the nicest things is coming back from camping after a few days and getting in the shower, and you stand there, or I stand there, and I just close my eyes and just go, oh. And I really feel that beauty. I'm grateful for that warm, hot water, because I haven't probably had it for 3 days. Or that I feel really clean, because I haven't felt really clean for 3 days. So my attention is fully in my body, and I'm kind of really present in the shower. I'm just feeling the heat. I'm smelling the smells. It's just me in the shower in that moment. There's no thinking. I don't need to think about anything.
So we've basically overcomplicated mindfulness, haven't we?
Well, I'm always interested in people's definition on it.
And that's the problem, is it? I do. That's the problem. If you ask 10 people, you get 20 answers.
Right. I mean, what would yours be?
I would. Well, here we go. It's a prime example. I'm having to think long and hard. I don't know. For me, it's ultimate peace.
So what would your mind then say? Yuck to ultimate peace.
You've got me. You've got me again, didn't you? You want to? No, I think no. Now, if you said that, I wouldn't say yuck, because you asked what is mindful, and I've forgotten what the question was.
Well, I said, well, and I'm not trying to catch you out because
Yeah,
I'm
no,
going
no,
to.
no, it's cool. This is why I love these videos. Yeah.
Sometimes we see how, and don't take any of this personally. This is just the human mind doing its crazy thing, right? And we've all got the same human mind, effectively.
Yeah.
So if our human mind says, someone asks us, "What is mindfulness?" and I go, ultimate peace. That's my definition of mindfulness. And then someone says, "Well, what do you think about mindfulness?" and I go, "Yuck." Those two things don't add up, do they?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
No one says yuck to ultimate peace. Everyone wants ultimate peace. It's like that's like the holy grail.
Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons I don't like labels, and I don't like wrapping things up, and I don't say come meditate with me, and I don't use mindfulness because people is so confused. Even if a simple conversation you and I are having, it just gets so polluted so quickly. And there's yuck, there's peace. Oh, maybe I should be doing it then because maybe I do think it's peace, but I don't want to sit still and do it. It just sounds tree hugging. Do you know what I mean? It's like this voice, that
Yeah.
voice, so clouded. So let's strip it all away and say, forget it all, forget the definitions. Let's just try something. Let's just try the experience of it and see what you think. Because it doesn't matter what I say about meditation and mindfulness. It doesn't matter what the greatest teachers in the world say. It doesn't matter what the greatest books in the world say. The only thing that matters is if somebody tries it and what is their experience.
And I think that's, I started pointing. I think that's a valid point because, as I said, like, not by default, Manup's quite a masculine. I was like, just by default, it's quite arguably a masculine stuff. And when we have spoken about, very rarely, when we have spoken about, did a video about someone who was on about they swear by yoga. And on Instagram, actually, you get the usual stuff, that the spammy stuff, and then you get the bloody teachers come on, and then you get the normal followers. I don't want to upset anyone, but then you get like the normal blokes like me, who's just like, what a load of bollocks. But you can just, I don't want to judge people, but you can tell straight away. I know that because I've been that person. They've not taken 2 seconds to learn about it.
No.
And just go, do you know what? What if
Yeah.
I made that sitting in my car? Actually, I do now. Actually, maybe I am a mindful person. I do like to sit in that car just for 5 minutes, just before everyone else, and just sit there for 5 minutes. And funny enough, even my member of staff, Karina, she knows. I've caught her waiting up there around the corner for it because she's like always doing this weird thing in the car. And she'll give me a couple of minutes. She'll have a cigarette or whatever she does up there, and then she'll come up.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And so
It was the same as you. When I was burned out at IBM, somebody said to me, "Why don't you try mindfulness?" And I swore at him. I swore at him because I thought I don't need that bullshit. I'm a macho tough guy. I'm in a fairly macho company, big company, IBM, where there's a lot of pressure and a lot of ego and a lot of kind of everything's got to be stronger, quicker, faster, next quarter, this, blah, blah, blah. And so I had this huge aversion to it. So I completely relate. I love it. I actually love it. When you said yuck in that session last week, I started laughing because I'm not here to convince you of anything. I said to you last week, don't believe a word I tell you, Dan.
yeah,
Don't believe, please. Nobody got fit by listening to a talk on fitness. Nobody becomes mindful by listening to a talk on mindfulness. And believing in fitness gets you nowhere unless you move your body and try it and find a sport you love. And believing in mindfulness gets you nowhere unless you try it and incorporate it in your life. So you can draw very similar parallels between fitness and mindfulness, I think.
No, I'd have to agree with you. Really, I do think. I think the thing what frustrates me about the whole fitness stuff, and I guess it is we put so much pressure of, well, you go to the gym, go to the gym, go to the gym, go to the gym. Actually, go for a walk. Just go for a walk. That's it. Doesn't need to be. And I've spoken. Yeah, no, I've spoken to like world champion powerlifters on this very on this very charity, powerlifters and all of this kind of stuff, and all of them have said just to get fit, sod off everything. If you're massively overweight, depressed, doesn't matter what it is, make your bed, walk to the end of the garden.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all you need to do. And then the next day, if you want to, walk the garden twice, then go to the shops. It's just, I guess by the sounds of it, it's just this whole inner peace. Bloody hell, you're warming onto me now. This whole inner, you brainwashed me, man. I'll get the old things out in a minute. But it's just, I think it's taken a moment to sit back and go, that's what I really enjoy, isn't it? And it's finding what works for them. If it's sitting in the car, then just sit in the car.
Absolutely, right. And I don't profess mindfulness to be this panacea. I don't try and force it on anybody. Find what works for you. There's loads of different ways you can invite mindfulness into your life. loads of different ways. Whilst you're on the go, whilst you're in traffic, whilst you're waiting for the lift, whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil, when you're drinking your coffee, there's loads of ways you can do it. So people don't even need massive amounts of time because they're doing these things anyway.
Yeah.
Right. The beautiful thing I teach is it's not about doing different things, it's about doing things differently. That's the game changer, right? Because if I'm working with a very senior exec whose ass is on fire, they're going to say to me, I haven't got 20 minutes, half an hour a day to sit and do this. Okay, fine. But I tell you what you are doing, you're commuting into your office, you're eating your breakfast, you're drinking your coffee, you're taking a shower every day. So can we piggyback that stuff and start to quieten your mind whilst you're doing all of that stuff? Because then there's no excuses.
Valid point.
That's when it gets interesting.
Absolutely. So do you think we draw to a close, and there's my little cue on there of just, let's call it a minute. So if you could give someone just like a quick tip of just whatever, of just bringing mindfulness, however that look, have you got one little cheeky tip for somebody?
Yeah, so a very, very quick way to quieten your mind. You talked about sitting in the car. Well, I guess what you're doing in your car, what a lot of people do. In fact, let's carry on with using sport, right? Watch someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, big, or anyone taking a big penalty or a big thing. They'll often stand there and go, right? You watch them take that big in-breath, out-breath, right? Just a normal thing in sport. Now, why are they doing that? Two reasons. One, physiologically, that's a brilliant thing to do. If you take a big breath in and exhale through your mouth, you're activating something called your vagus nerves, which shifts you into parasympathetic nervous system state. That's a state of peace. So by doing that, you're literally saying to your body, whether you feel it or not, everything's cool right now. Everything's fine. Your body doesn't know the difference between a threat or a thought of a threat, right? They're the same thing. So we can use that to our advantage and say to our body, everything's cool, even if we don't necessarily feel it. So to calm a sports person down, they'll often take a massive breath that does those two things. First thing, calms the body down. Second thing, is one most people don't realize, it quietens their mind. If you're stood in front of 80,000 people about to take a huge penalty in the World Cup final, you need to have a quiet mind. Imagine the voice coming in your head. You're going to miss this. Oh my God, how many people are watching? This is going to be God. You don't want to be doing any thinking, just like you don't want to be doing any thinking on your bike, right? And the beautiful thing is, if you pay full attention to your breath, people can do this right now watching me, just notice the sensation of your breath. When you notice how cool it is as you breathe in, and just track it past your throat and chest. Feel your belly expand. Feel your belly contract. Watch the breath come back out again. You can't do that. You can't be with the sensation of your breath with all of your attention and think at the same time. So let's bring it all the way back to the first thing we said in this call. Pretty much was, when I stop thinking, Dan, amazing things happen. And when I'm on my bike and I'm not thinking, it's beautiful. Okay, well, I can take a conscious breath like we did just now, sitting in my car. I can shift all my attention to my breathing for 2 breaths, and that will quieten my mind in a similar way to my mind is quiet on my bike. Because in then, I know I have to be totally 100% present. But this time, I'm inviting myself to be 100% present. How do I do that? I piggyback the sensation of breathing. I don't think I'm going to try and still my mind. I don't try and shut it up. I don't fight it. None of that will work. I take attention gently away from thinking. I place it somewhere else, and I just watch the breath quietly. So that's one way somebody could try.
Genius. I'm going to go and buy some candles. But it's really, this is why I wanted to, this is why I wanted to have a Manup on it, because do you know what, even if it's, I don't know how many people watch this video eventually, but even if five blokes who are just having a bit of a hard time just sit there and unconscious, whatever that thing I'm trying to say, if they just give it a go and go, there's something in that, fair enough.
That's all you can ask.
Yeah.
And when they're ready, right? If you're completely close to this, don't try it, don't force it. Exactly. Don't think I should be trying this, I should, wait till you're ready. But if you are ready, if this has resonated, if anything I've said in these last 15, 20 minutes has resonated with you to a point where you go, maybe, just try and see. You don't even have to tell anyone you're doing it. I didn't when I first started.
Exactly. No, exactly that. I'll do the whole taggy stuff anyway when I upload it. So it's all good. Let me hit the record button 1 second.